I think what we've got to learn to do as mature business people is learn how to be silly. And through the
Mature
silliness, we can get some joy, we can get some humor, we can
Yes.
get some energization.
Welcome back to Super Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Shahid Durrani. In today's session, we have Dr. Robin Hills. Robin is the founder of EI for Change, a leading company in emotional intelligence training with over 500,000 learners worldwide in over 200 countries. Robin uses EQ in a way that's compassionate yet effective, enabling leaders to build resilience, manage uncertainty, and succeed when it matters the most. He specializes in using behavioral science alongside gamification and storytelling to improve performance universally. Welcome to our
Oh,
show,
Shahid, was
Robin.
that me you were talking about? It seems too good to be true.
Yes, it's true. It's true. Or did
No,
I
no,
say something
no.
wrong? Please
Well, there's
correct me
nothing wrong
because
within that.
sometimes,
I just sat there and thought, oh, he sounds very
yeah.
good.
Look, that's good that I'm able to do that, right? But you have your history and what you're doing is speaking louder than any words could possibly do that, right? Like you're an example of change in the world. And not that anything is wrong. I feel that we don't need to look at it like we have to change something. I think we are in a journey together, and everything that's happening is happening for a reason. I'm a true believer in that. And we're supposed to learn in each phase of our journey. And, it is what it is in a way. So I'm just grateful to have this opportunity to sit with your mind and understand what you're doing and see how we can add value in people's
Sure,
lives, right?
absolutely. As you've rightly said, it's not about change. It's about really
Mhm.
understanding yourself better and really being the person that you're destined to
Yeah.
be and being the best version of yourself.
Yeah. Yes, it's so true. And it's sitting idle for almost everyone. We have this greatness inside us and this super, you know, foundation of humanity. Like human beings have this foundational strength that when we let it out and we clear out the clutter and all the conditioning, the environment conditioning, there's something very strong, something very super that comes out where it's just about giving and doing good for others. And at the same time, amplifying your life. But in reality, you're actually amplifying everyone else's life. And that's why your life is amplifying
Yes, I
indirectly.
think the key to that is for people to really understand what their
Mm,
core values are and what their strengths are. And by
mm,
having that realization, they're
mm.
actually able to go out into the world and deliver good through what it is that they're capable of doing that nobody else is capable of doing. And that really is the foundation of what I work, or what I do when I'm working with people.
So, can you walk us back to the time when you realized you need to create this global movement? A beautiful movement, by the way. I love having EQ experts on the show and bringing this awareness. And, I've experienced it in my life as I incorporate emotional intelligence. It's just a term, EQ, but in reality, is just having that stable calmness within and looking at life from a different perspective, having that ability that's already built into us, and you guys out there bringing that awareness that, hey, wait a minute, why don't you try looking here, or why don't you try looking at it this way? I find that
Well,
fascinating.
I think for me, my realization around what it was that I could do and deliver around emotional intelligence happened at a very early age, long before emotional
Mhm.
intelligence was known about, or even around the time when it was starting to be
Yeah.
researched in the academic circles within the universities. And my realization was that I could take a very complex subject and communicate with other people around the complexity of the subject so that I didn't necessarily dumb it down, but I made it a lot more understandable and a lot more interesting for people. And I
Hmm.
found that my core passion was around developing people in order to help them to improve their performance at work, at home, indeed through their social relationships. It's having a very positive, optimistic outlook on life, but not looking at life through rose tinted spectacles, understanding the gritty realism of life and actually saying, this is the life that I have been dealt up with, for good or for bad. What can I do to make a difference to other people? And on the basis of that, I set up my business, EI for Change, about 15, 16 years ago, not with an intention of global domination. I set it up really with the intention of generating some good locally, and particularly where I am around the United Kingdom. But circumstances prevailed that I could actually then send a message out to the wider world. And as you rightly said in your introduction, I've touched
Beautiful.
500,000 people in 200 odd countries.
Beautiful, Robin. Love it, my friend. It is so incredible what you're doing. And to see how beautiful, how it just has a life of its own and is expanding because it's based on goodness, I feel. So it's good that you have the response that you never expected, when you started this, but it blew up into something really, really major. And one thing that comes to mind while I'm speaking to you here is the multiculturalism of EQ. You taught in different countries, and there's a paradigm in each country, right? In each culture, how they perceive life. How do you go about being able to connect universally with this type of information when you're dealing with different belief
Well, I think the
systems?
important fundamental factor when I'm dealing with different cultures is they're made up of human beings like you and I. And quite honestly,
Yes,
we've been brought up
yes.
differently. We've been brought up within our own cultures. We've been brought up within our own environments. We've had our own life challenges to deal with. And quite honestly, I'm not necessarily interested in people's fundamental beliefs and trying to change those. I'm interested in taking those
Hmm.
fundamental beliefs and getting them to work for people. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, we all have physiological and psychological reactions to the environment that we work in or we live in. We all have
Mm.
emotions, and emotions are data that enable us to interpret our environment and make good choices and build up our social network in order to be the best person that we possibly can be and succeed and perform. And that I've not talked about any particular culture, I've not talked about any particular religion, I've not talked about any particular nationality. What I'm doing is engaging with people, and I'm taking them right back to the basics. We are all human beings. We've got a brain, we've got two
Yeah.
eyes, we've got a mouth, we've got a nose, we've got two ears. Let's use them in the best possible combination with the rest of our body to make the best decisions based around what the emotional data is telling
Mm.
us.
Mm. Yeah, you communicate with them on a foundational level, and the cultural beliefs or any kind of paradigms that they are conditioned to experience or be in, you can very easily bring EQ in any kind of environment, any kind of belief system, because it's
Yes,
foundational.
that's right. And I think the key parts that I play within cultures is to actually sit and listen and try and understand the culture, because I'm not going to be able to go in there and say, this is the way to do it. Here I am, Johnny Englishman. I
That
know
part I
what to
meant.
do. Listen to me and you'll
Yeah.
be all right. No, no. What I'm
Yeah.
interested in doing, how
Yeah.
does this work? What does this mean to you? Where does that idea come from? How are you going to make that work for you? What are the things that you need to do in order to do it better? Now, those are the sort of fundamental questions that I will ask of anybody and everybody, really, more for my own
Mm.
selfish purpose, just to
Why? What?
find out
Where?
the things that I don't know.
Mm. Yeah, no, it will help you, right? Definitely dealing with them and seeing the world through their eyes so you can help them better. That's beautiful. Perfect. So now I notice also you use gamification, which excites me very much. And I always wondered in the back of my mind about, meeting these different industry leaders, and I'm noticing a very small percentage incorporate gamification in their corporations or in their business. When the research is showing, that gamification amplifies the learning and the engagement and the connectedness in the organization. But that would be a different question, I guess, to kind of figure out why they're not using it. But I'm wondering, can you share with us what was the reasoning behind it? Was it data driven, or was it something that just came to you one day and you want to incorporate it? And what does it entail in
Oh,
working with people
look,
in your organization?
Shahid, I think it's vitally important for me to stress at this stage that the gamification I use is very simplistic and very crude. And as technology progresses, I'm looking at ways of building it into my courses, be them face to face courses or online courses, just to make them a lot more fun. And I think what has been driving me around gamification is the fun element, because people go into the work
Yes.
environment, it's all very serious and all very, we don't do that sort of thing around here. And we're here to work. We're not here to make friends. We're not here to have fun. We're not here to use our emotions. No rubbish. Let's make it fun. Let's build some humor into it.
Yeah.
That's really the idea behind gamification. But the crudity that I've got within there is around badging systems. You get a badge for completing a certain element of the course. And a lot of people like the idea that, oh, I've got a badge here. And there's a certain competitive element within it that's either intrinsically motivated, oh, I need to go and get the next badge, or it's extrinsically motivated, oh, Shahid's got a bigger badge than I have, so I've got to go and get that badge too. That's one example of gamification. The other example is in terms of building in quizzes that are a little bit more than just question and answer and multiple choice. They build in different styles of questions where people can look for a particular country on a map, for example, and click and point as to where that is. Or they can drag images around a screen and drop them at certain parts in order to build up a picture. And these are elements of gamification within quizzes that, again, make the quiz just a little bit more interesting. I will hasten to add once again that it's at a very simplistic level. And as we go into 2026, 2027, towards the 2030s, my challenge and my focus will be to build in more gamification, just simply because it's fun.
Good. So, yeah, definitely. And we want to bring that childlike
Yes.
joy back in our lives, since I brought that back, and, I just have this, I don't know if I brought it back or it just came about on its own after calming the mind. But it's just, you just feel that joy, you go out in nature. On Sunday, I went for a walk in a trail, and I was just hearing the birds and the trees, and it just felt so at home. I just felt that this is it. Like, it was just so beautiful, and I literally wanted to kind of hop in, hop into the, just hop around, and there's just, I had this part of me that stopped me, right, and say, no, you can't be foolish. But I want to be foolish. There's something part of me that I want to be. I don't want to hold it. And it becomes really powerful. But that fun element, I feel that it amplifies the quality of your life
It
tenfold.
does. And I think what we've got to learn to do as mature business people is learn how to be silly. And
Mature
through the
business.
silliness, we can get some joy, we can get some humor, we can
Yes.
get some energization. And if we're being really silly, we're
Yeah.
not humor at the expense of other people and other cultures.
Yeah.
Self-depreciating humor is absolutely great. Let's use it. Oh, look at me, how stupid I am. But do it in a way that does not denigrate yourself. It just builds up relationships.
Yes.
And dance around, hop about,
Yes.
sing,
Yeah.
dance, do what is appropriate.
Yeah.
Because I think moving forward, and as we
Yeah.
move into the 2030s and the 2040s, these are components that are beyond the capability of artificial intelligence.
Yes. So true. Is beyond. And that's why I like to say I love artificial intelligence. I think it's beautiful. I think it's an amazing invention. And I feel it is bringing a lot awareness to the human and how we have a very similar feedback system through our environment, right? What we see comes back to our conscious mind or subconscious, and then some of it becomes a habitual, and then we start engaging with the world automatically. So it's like very similar to the AI. So I feel that AI is coming to serve us or help us elevate to a very high level, and it's a must. We're at that stage now that we need that type of help, and it's great to have it. I feel it will be impossible. I can't really say that. People were saying, could have said that in the early 1900s about artificial intelligence. That's impossible. So it's hard to say, but intuition, human knowingness, and that direction, the guidance that we feel internally for the decisions we make, and that connectivity. I don't know how that would be possible to replicate, and the
It won't.
emotions, what we feel, and that coming back
It
to
won't. It
sorry,
won't be
go ahead.
able to replicate that. One of the things that you and
Yeah,
I have been, I can guarantee this without any fear of contradiction, both you and I were babies and we grew up as boys. And we
I
learned
agree.
through being boys and we learned through being naughty. And we learned what our
Yeah,
boundaries were. We learned what was good. We learned what was bad. We learned through
yeah,
stories. We tell stories ourselves. These are things that were way beyond the capability of AI because it hasn't had a childhood. And these are things that then it lacks. And through its lacking of a childhood, it lacks the elements of emotional intelligence that you and I have got and built up by being boys.
good point. Yeah, and it's you never say never. You don't know, but at this point, 100%, it's that differentiating factor that I feel in this age, but where things are shifting to artificial intelligence, is going to make people's lives super easy. And I feel that openness of time allows us to go within and start increasing our EQ, for example, or emotional intelligence, our mindset, just overall what's happening on inside, to connect better to what we're part of and come up with more creativity that will amplify even AI, for example. So it's a great opportunity for human beings to shine even further with this technology. And I'm looking forward to, ideas of, well, how are you going to implement this in your organization with your students, incorporating AI and helping them get more transformations using this technology. But I noticed that there's a part where you mentioned somewhere about images of resilience. You employ metaphors and visuals. Can you share what you learn in terms of how the mind connects emotionally to an image versus actual
Sure,
language?
and again, it's a differentiator between us as human beings and between AI because you're right. The whole idea behind images of resilience is it's metaphor based. Let me just give a brief background for your listeners so that they know what we're talking about. Images
Yes,
of
please.
Resilience is an image based coaching toolbox which consists of 18 cartoon cards, and these cards are made up of images, 18 different images depicting different aspects of resilience, the values and beliefs of resilience, the skills that are needed within resilience, an understanding of resilience. Now, the word resilience is being bandied about, it's being overused in a lot of circumstances. And everybody has their own interpretation of what resilience is and what it means. So rather than going in and saying, this is what resilience is, you need to be more resilient within your organization, your culture, within your family, within your circumstances. It's a case of going in and saying to people, what does resilience mean to you? What does it look like? How can you then interpret what resilience you've got and how it works for you? And what is it that you can do in order to be more resilient? I've been working with these images for well over a decade with a variety of people from all over the world. And there are certain similarities in terms of the stories that come out, but there are some great differentiators around the stories that come out. And people will often take an image and talk around an image, and they will be pointing out something that I'll sit there and think, do you know, I've never noticed that before. And they'll be pulling something out of an image or a situation that is very much applicable. So my challenge in terms of working with images of resilience, or indeed any training tool, is to help people get the learning they need, the self-understanding that they need by going through the activity. Because it's not for me to learn, it's for them to learn. So how can I create the right learning environment so that they can take something positive away from the engagement? If they don't, that's their choice. If they do, and the majority of people do, I get a lot of reward from that.
That's their choice. Yeah, both ways they have a choice. And, providing those options is, if they're signing up for being in your program, obviously going to be choosing the second because it's important for their development. Can you share what do you feel entrepreneurs or business leaders or leaders in general, what do you feel they get wrong about emotional intelligence that is quite common that you could bring to surface
Sure.
right now for people?
Now, I want to highlight something that's come through our conversation quite frequently, that a lot of people talk about emotional intelligence as EQ. And for me, EQ is great because that is the measure of what can be measured within emotional intelligence. So it's things like stress tolerance, the resilience we've been talking about. It's about interpersonal relationships. It's about emotional management. It's about self-awareness. It's about decision making. All of these things can be measured. But for me, emotional intelligence goes beyond that. It takes in biases, conscious and unconscious biases, which can't be measured. It takes in preferences. It takes in attitudes. It takes in motivators. These are things that are all part of emotional intelligence, but cannot be measured through the term EQ. So for me, EQ goes about 80% of the way, and there's a 20% of the way that is beyond, that is still emotional intelligence, and probably there's about 10% of that that we just don't understand. Now, if I look at EQ or EI, it doesn't matter which. Going back to your original question, what do people get wrong? Beyond that is that people look at emotions being very simplistic. They're either on or off, they're either good or bad, they're either positive or negative. There's no kind of shades of grey between the two emotions or between an emotion. They will just consider them to be one or the other. And a lot of people will say, we don't do emotions in our workplace. You do emotions. The very fact that you said that has been driven by an emotion. So what we've got to do is to help people to understand that emotions drive everything that we do. And if I go back to what I said to you earlier, emotions are data. Now, if you think about data is not positive or negative, data is not good or bad. It's just data. It's what you do with the data that is positive or negative, that is good or bad. And that's the way in which I encourage people to look at emotional intelligence. How am I feeling at the moment? Does it feel pleasant? Does it feel unpleasant? Is it setting me up to fight? Is it setting me up to flee? And by answering those very simple, basic questions, people then understand that emotional intelligence is the way in which they apply their thinking to those feelings in order that they can make decisions and build up these relationships. Yeah, and respond
Response.
and choose. Going back to the choice that you were talking about.
Choose. Beautiful choices. I used to hate decisions, but they're a beautiful aspect of growth. And they're so important for us to be able to make these decisions, and people that are making these decisions to work on emotional intelligence is very intelligent, I feel, especially for the future and just managing life, because it can get really, really tough without this intelligence, without this inner workings, because if we're in a reactive state all the time, or we're expecting some type of a reaction coming, or it could be even someone saying something, but our expectation, our paradigm sees only one type of information. And this happens to us. It might have happened to you too. You might be explaining something, but it was taken in a different context or different way, and another person may have gotten upset. And that is also intelligence, because when we start becoming more self-aware, we're able to understand those triggers and why they're happening, and work on more on the root of those triggers. But can you share in your experience? And by the way, one thing I noticed, the way you speak, you're able to paint the picture. So when you explain things, I noticed that you're able to paint a picture in your explanation, so it was easier for me to understand. Does that make sense? So your how you communicate is a very effective image creator for another person.
I know that's interesting feedback.
Did you get that
I have
feedback
had that
before?
feedback quite a few times, and it's not something that I'm consciously aware of. So it's something that I've just built
It
up
just
over the
happens.
years, and I've become competent at it, so much so that I pushed it into the unconscious or into my subconscious, either one.
That's awesome. It
And
became
it
part of your
becomes part of
paradigm.
who I am.
It became
Yeah,
part of
and
your
it then
yeah,
becomes one of
yeah,
the
yeah. That's
strengths that I
wonderful.
was talking about earlier on. And I recognize that I've got this power
Yeah,
around communication. It's a gift, and I try and make it work for me.
yeah.
There are going to be
That's okay.
times when I get it wrong.
No, it's great.
I'm
Yeah,
human
it's
like you
okay.
are. So,
It's
and
okay.
some people like it, and
Yeah,
some people
it's
don't. And
okay.
I've just got to accept that.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah, you got to accept that. And that's the thing for me. I make a lot of mistakes. I miss words, or I'll stutter, and my communication is not the best. But I feel that I what I do is I try to do what you're doing. I'm not as effective, but I do try to paint the picture with the words so people can understand. But I think this kind of art comes with experience. The more you do it, the more you practice, the more your willingness to improve and amplify and make it better is the key. That wanting to make it better,
Sure,
right?
it really is a case of trying to think about the other person, what it is that they are needing, and what it is that you want them to hear, and help them to understand that you're there to help them, support them, and to serve them, and to try to use it, and to try to do
Yeah.
that in a very simple way, like I say, without dumbing it down, but being able to communicate at every level, so that hopefully you might have a few young teenagers listening to your podcast, Shahid. And if we can engage with
Yes.
them, it's as good as engaging with the retirees who are listening anytime they like, because
Yeah.
they've got the capability of doing that and thinking, yeah, I know all this. And they probably do. Yeah, the
I know
difference is,
this.
are they
Yeah.
practicing it?
Yeah. Yeah. Knowing and becoming, they're two different
Yes,
things.
absolutely. And what I would encourage your younger listeners to
Yeah.
do is to strive to move forward and to be better every single day, and to make each interaction that you have with
Good.
everybody a positive one, and leave that person feeling good about themselves.
Yes. Yes. Do you feel good with being on a
Oh,
show so far?
definitely, yeah. I love coming on these kind of shows and having a great conversation. As you
Yeah. How about this show
Well, yeah, yeah.
specifically?
You and I seem to be engaging at the right sort of emotion. Yeah,
I'll put you
well,
on a
I'm
spot,
not
right?
going to say, oh, no, I'm hating every moment of it. No, you and I
Yeah.
seem to be engaging at a good emotional level. We're having the sort of conversation that
Yeah.
you
Yeah. We
instructed
are.
me that you would like to have long before we even met face to face. And I thought, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah. True. Yeah. True. Can you give us something juicy now? Can you give us a tool or a tip or a trick or a strategy for people that are listening out there that they can implement immediately to start having more EI in their
What I would
life,
encourage
not react so
what I would
much?
encourage people to do is just to stop every so often. Set your watch, if it's got an alarm on it, to go off at every 2 hours. And then when the alarm goes off, consider, how am I feeling? Can I put a label on this emotion? If I can't, don't worry about it. But is it a pleasant emotion or is it unpleasant? And what's driving that emotion? And how can I utilize my emotion, the way I'm feeling at the moment, to make the better decisions that I need to make? Now, if it's a really unpleasant emotion, stop, go out the room, go and do something completely different, and come back to it afresh. If it's a pleasant emotion and you're in flow, keep going, enjoy it, relish it. And over time, you'll learn to be better at interpreting and working with your emotions. So it's a very simple tip. And I know a lot of people will think, yeah, it's so simple, I won't bother
It's
doing
good.
it. But give it a go. Give it a go for a couple of days and see
Well,
what happens.
yeah. Yeah. The key I found in my experience is having that beginner's mindset to look at and listen to the information, even though you might have heard it 100 times before. Maybe there's something that triggers you intuitively to actually want to practice the information that you're getting this time around and making that decision saying, hey, you know what, let me just try it for a day. It doesn't hurt. It just takes a second to put in my phone. Let me see. Let me just become aware. I want to be aware of my numbers. I want to be aware of my business and my sales and all that stuff. What about me? I'm pretty important, right? In all this. Why shouldn't I just become aware here and there throughout the day to see where my emotional level is? Maybe it'll bring me more creativity. Maybe it'll open up something different in my world.
Yeah.
Why not?
And
So,
another little simple tip that I'll give people that they can do it immediately
yes,
the minute you and I have stopped talking.
yes,
How did that podcast conversation make you feel? Did you agree with some of the points? Did you disagree with some of the points? There's no right or wrong. Just reflect
yeah,
on it and think, is there something I can take away from this, good or bad? And actually
yeah,
then learn through that process, learn something about yourself. I didn't like the way Robin said
yeah.
this
Good.
because I
I like
disagreed with
that.
him. Great, that's
Perfect.
fine. Why did you
Yeah,
disagree? What is it that you
yeah.
disagreed
That's
with?
fine.
What are you going to do
Yeah,
about it?
I
How
love
can
that.
that understanding help you better? That I think is an important takeaway that people can get immediately from this podcast.
Mm,
Oh, uh,
perfect. I
look,
love it. I love it,
let's flip
Robin.
it
That
the
was
other
great.
way. You
Yeah,
know, if there was something that I said that
yeah,
you fully agreed with and thought, yes, that's interesting. I've never thought of it that way. Go away and think about it, reflect upon it, and build it into your life in a positive way. So we're looking at it
yeah,
both positively
yeah.
and negatively.
Incorporate it.
And I'm not arrogant enough to say that
Yeah.
all my words of wisdom are great words that everybody could engage with. I know there are people out there that just
Everyone is different.
thought,
Yeah.
that was a bit of a waste of my time. Okay, why was it a waste
Yeah.
of your time?
Either Yeah, either way, this is such a great exercise to do, audience, and please share with us in the comments. If you're just hop over to YouTube and find the episode with Robin and just leave a comment there, because I would love to get more engagement on YouTube as well and start getting this important discussions in action. I'll definitely do my best to be personally responding to comments, because that's what I want to do moving forward. That's one of my goals, and this will be perfect. This information that you're hearing on these episodes, engage with a comment, and especially this tool, this strategy that Robin just shared. Reflect and then share, and let's start a conversation. And I appreciate you guys, audience. Thank you. And Robin, thank you so much for taking the time today and
It's
coming
been
on our show.
brilliant. It's been brilliant. And just to add to the comments that you've asked people to make on YouTube,
Yeah,
um, whatever you put, whatever
yeah.
you write, it's going to help both Shahid and I make these podcasts even better. So thank you for the opportunity, Shahid, to engage with you, more importantly, with your audience out there.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Robin, for your time and your energy. And what you're doing here is just phenomenal. And I hope that your organization continues to grow, continues to shine. There's emotional intelligence is a crucial component that's missing in many families and organizations and people's lives, where it doesn't have to be so miserable, or it doesn't have to be so anger based, or any of those emotions, which are normal, they happen. But what is triggering it? Knowing that you are the one that can make yourself feel differently by shifting the way you think about the situation, circumstance, and the person. And having these kind of guests like Robin on the show is a blessing. And again, Robin, please keep in touch. Appreciate your time today, and best
Thank you. It
wishes
was
to
a
you.
pleasure.